start getting ready to start the session. It's 1 o'clock. And so thank you everyone for joining us. Today is February 16th. Very cold day where I am in Bloomington, Indiana. We are at this point minus 4 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 20 degrees centigrade, correct? So it's very cold. And then Sana is in Tampere in Finland. Before we start, Sana, tell us what's the temperature like there and what's the situation like this winter?
Well, I think we have a bit more snow than you do in Bloomington, but we are much warmer here. So minus 7 centigrades.
So that's about 19 degrees Fahrenheit. That's nice.
Yes. Too cold for me.
Oh, yes. So it's already 1:01. So we're going to start the session. It's being recorded. And I just want to start by saying hello, everyone who've registered. Folks are just coming in at this point in time. We have almost 50 people online today. So we're going to have a somewhat of a large group. And at the beginning anyway. And so Sana, welcome. Sana is going to talk to us about teacher education and teaching in Finland. And so Sana, without going on and on, can you help us understand where you're coming from, what you do in Finland? Before we start, I do want to set the ground rules. We'll be talking conversation for about 30 minutes, and then there'll be a Q&A right after. And etiquette is to be observed. Nancy, who's behind the scene, if there are any personal attacks, you will be removed from this session. And so without further ado, Sana, tell us a little bit where you're coming from and who you are and what you do in Finland.
Okay, thank you. Great to see you again. It's been 4 years since I was in Bloomington as a Fulbright, so great to see you. I'm an English teacher in a Finnish high school, and I'm also a special education teacher. So I've studied English as my major in, ages ago, and then later on I did my special education studies and became a special education teacher as well. And that's what I mostly do. That's my day job. And then I go around schools and do some teacher training in school, in-house teacher training on teacher collaboration. And then also I work with 3 Finnish companies and collaborate in Finnish education. Teacher groups that come to Finland, they visit schools and so on, and I work with those companies as well. So sometimes lecture about Finnish education and things like that.
You have a full plate. Full plate, no doubt.
Yes.
For those of us who are new to teach education in your country, as an English teacher, what is your day like?
I'll have to show you a picture first so that you understand what the system is. But it won't take long. I won't give a presentation or anything like that. But I'll share my screen to you, and if you can see a picture now of the education system that we have in Finland, then it'll be easier for me to explain it to you. Okay, good. So this is where I work, general upper secondary education. And as you can see from the picture, we have first the basic education for 9 years, though it's almost, I think, similar to the US system, that we have the primary school and then we have the middle school. And it takes up 9 years. And then after that, our students choose between 2 schools, whether they want to have the general upper secondary education as a normal general high school, or if they want to go to a vocational high school. So we have a dual system there. And that's something that you have to understand when I explain what I do, because the systems are different. We in a general school, general high school, we focus on academics, and for the students to continue to universities mostly. And then the teachers who work in vocational high schools, they focus more on skills and trades and so on. And the students who go from there usually continue to polytechnic schools. But the system is open so that you can change at whatever point. If you are a student, you can change at whatever point. You can go. If you have like studied for a year in a vocational school, then you decide, well, this is not for me. I don't want to be a carpenter. I want to go to university. You can change to general upper secondary school, or you can go all through vocational school and then to a university, apply to a university and so on. So I think this is something that because this is so different than from the system that you have, then this is something that you have to understand. But my normal school day is, it depends. It depends, because we have a system where our school year is divided into five periods or modules, and after each 7 week our schedules change, and the teachers have depending on what they teach, they have a different number of lessons that they have to teach. As an English teacher, I have to have 18 hours of teaching in a week. 18 times 45 minutes. We have a 45-minute lesson, so 18 times 45 minutes. But that's the average. So I can have in one 7-week section, I could have 10 hours. And then in the next one, I could have 25, then I could have 15, and so on. So it varies a lot. My days vary a lot, and we don't have to be at school any other time. So we only have to be at the school building when we have our lessons, or when we have a teachers meeting, or a meeting with parents or students or something like that. So there is no normal day. There is no normal day.
I'm sure there'll be questions about that down the road, as to what a normal or typical day is or isn't.
Right.
So that sounds like an interesting configuration, actually, and the rationale behind that, I think, would be of interest in the membership. One of the things that you mentioned earlier was your collaborative work, and we want to kind of focus on that quite a bit. However, we need to understand the Finnish educational system, and the Finland just burst into the scene in the 2000s for being one. For having such a splendid educational system based on PISA assessments. But there's a lot of myths about Finland, and I think in us understand Finnish education, we need for you to help us talk about some of the myths or debunk some of the myths. One of them being there's no homework in your system. So, I have my youngest is about 15 right now. He's probably jumping up in joy, but, that's one of the myths that we read about. Can you tell us, the 3 or 4 outstanding myths that people who don't know your system should know about, should you be, wary about?
Well, the homework thing is one. The homework thing is one. It's true that we probably don't give as much homework as you do, but we do give homework. But in the lower grades, the homework is not the thing. the idea is to work at school and learn at school. And then when the children are not at school, then they should focus on their hobbies and free time and time with their families and so on. And in the elementary school, they stay in the school for, I think, about 23 to 24 hours a week, the children.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they can work on the lessons, on the homework at school. But in high school, we do give homework, and especially in the high school that I am in, this academic high school, we do give homework, even though the children or the teens, they don't like it. They don't like it. And we try to work as much at school so that they would have time to do something else as well, and not just study all day at school first and then study all evenings as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then what else? I think one thing.
I think there's a myth. Yeah, there's a myth that literacy and numeracy is not important.
Okay. Well, yes and no again. Yes and no again, because I think they are important, yes, as much as everyone needs to learn to read and write and arithmetic. So they are the basics. But I think our schools focus a lot on skills, different kinds of skills, and creativity and personal growth, and trying to focus on each child as their own. So
Mm-hmm.
so there's a lot of that, and even in high school, we try to cater to everyone's needs. I think that
Mm-hmm.
was a difference between Finland and United States that I noticed when I was in Bloomington, that
Mm-hmm.
you give, or at least in Bloomington, I can't say you give because it varies so much, but in Bloomington, in the school that I saw, let's say it this way, they try to give everyone the same thing, and that's not how we do it. We try to find out what the student needs, and then we try to give each student what each student needs.
Mm-hmm.
So, Sana, do you have smaller class sizes that allow you to do that?
No.
Oh.
We just have burned out teachers.
That's sad. And the other question I wanted to ask that kind of came up is, you said the kids were in school, the younger grades were in school about 24, 25 hours a week. And I was kind of calculating it that our little ones here are often in school about 30 hours and a little bit more in some cases. And I was thinking, well, at least in US, and I was thinking that I think is by and large because the parents want somebody to watch their kids while they're working. So how is that managed in Finland?
Well, we have for the smaller ones, like first and second graders, we have afternoon clubs that they can go to. So after the school hours, they can go to a club and they can stay there until 4 or 5 o'clock and then go home. But older kids, like the third graders, for example, they just go home. So that's different in Finland, that our children they have much more freedom to go about than the children in United States, but I think it's just because it's so safe, at least it has been so safe in Finland, so that's a difference.
Yeah. I think, the article that I sent out, there were about 4 or 5, 6 minutes. By the way, we're joined by Kate Reynolds, who's the chair elect for TEIS, and she's joining us from Washington, D.C. And she's been, there in tandem with all of our activities. So forgive me for not introducing you earlier, Kate. But the article that I sent around had 4 or 5 myths, including, we can address them later, including no homework, no focus on literacy and numeracy, no teacher-centered instruction, and so on and so forth, which we can throughout the conversations with our audience members and down the road in a few minutes. But one of the things that the article seems to just suggest, now that article obviously was written in 2010, when everything burst open, and then there are subsequent articles, and I shared a 2019 article too with the membership. There's a lot more updates since then, and I think in the open Q&A we'll try, and I'm sure you'll have lots of interesting questions, Sanna. I think what it does for me is speaks of the openness of the system. However, as a teacher educator, when I look at how teachers are trained, quote unquote trained, we don't use the word train here, teacher education and teacher development, it's a very competitive system. It's only one in 10 teachers are selected, 1 in 10 applicants are selected to be a teacher. So it's very competitive. It's very exam based. And the position teaching is equated to those in medicine and law. That signals a lot of things to me. And so it also challenges the concept of openness, no exams, or whatever it is. How do you explain this contradiction, or if you see one?
I don't know if I can explain it, but there certainly is one, yes, and that is probably one reason why I've been doing this teacher collaboration thing here in Finland for about 6 or 7 years now, because the teachers that we get with this entrance exam and the university system that we have, the teachers that we get are not, they are high achievers, and they concentrate on their own work, and they try to get good grades and things like that. And then when they go to school, they should work with this national curriculum that we have, which is totally different. And that's the clash that there is, that I'm trying to work with when I work with the teachers, because at least in the subject area teacher, with the subject area teachers, it's even more difficult, because everyone just focuses on their own subject. I just will focus on my English, and that's the most important subject in the school, as you all know, and I don't care about the other subjects, and we don't live in a world like that anymore, so that we could train the students so that they don't understand the bigger picture behind everything. So
Sanna, I don't mean to interrupt, but I have a question. Sometimes here we find that the teachers who get into our teacher education system are so interested in their own studies, similar to your situation, right? And
right.
they're used to achieving well. This is why they're interested in education. They've always achieved, right? And interested in following that up. And yet sometimes we get them into programs, and I find that they might not have the dispositions of an educator that we're looking for. And I think one of them that you're talking about is the collaboration. Some of the stuff that we're talking about are here in the US our social justice orientation and appreciation for diversity.
Right.
So we have to really educate them on these things. So I'm finding a parallel there. And I just wanted to kind of highlight that, you know, under NCAPE or CAPE here, that we're supposed to train them in knowledge, performance, and dispositions. Do you have a similar kind of expectation for teacher preparation there? And if so, could you speak to that a bit?
You mean about getting teachers who are not ready for the school?
Yeah, and I think we can continue that because that's what your work is, right? Because your
Yes.
consultancy work is on the collaboration. I think, you know, if I understand correctly, there are two parts. One is what are teachers prepared for in the teacher education programs in Finland. The other is your collaboration work. And so if you want to address one or both, that'd be great.
Yes, and I think the system is in the universities in teacher education. There are two different kinds of systems. It's the system for classroom teachers is different from the subject area teacher training. So I think classroom teachers are much more ready to collaborate. They're much more ready to go into the classroom and work together, for example, with special needs students or with students from different ethnic backgrounds and things like that. Then the subject area teachers. And the problem is that we have in the middle school, we have subject area teachers, and in the high school, we have subject area teachers. So there's a big gap between the primary school and then middle school and high school in when the children grow up. They grow up in a different kind of environment in the school first for 6 years, and then they change into middle school, and suddenly everything changes. And even the way the teachers see it changes.
So in the midst of all of it comes your collaborative work, right?
Yes.
And this has been your lifelong passion. When you did your Fulbright project, you wanted to focus on teacher collaboration, primarily because when teachers get into the classroom, right, they're on their own. And so trying to make sense of the setting that they have before them and their training requires more of a bridging. And that's where you come in, correct?
Yes, yes.
And along those lines, the idea of this, the Finnish idea of phenomenology training, I think that's something that's core of your collaborative work. If you want to speak about that, please.
Yes, that it's more of it's like combination of project work and problem-based learning, inquiry-based learning, and all of those things mixed up together. And that's what I'm trying to help the teachers when I go around the schools, try to help the teachers, because that's a new thing. We only got a new core curriculum 2014, which introduced this, and this was and kind of forced the teachers, the subject area teachers in the middle school to start doing this, and that's where the idea is that teachers together plan a theme and teaching. They choose a theme, and then they plan together the teaching and what the children will do in teams and so on, and they tackle the problem for. And this is more, I think it's you've done in US, you've done project-based learning and problem-based learning far more longer than we have. It was a new thing for us, and now a lot of our subject teachers are just terrified that now what do we do now? How am I supposed to teach math with this? And how am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to collaborate with these teachers don't understand my subject, because my subject is the most important thing. And now these students, they won't learn English because they have to learn maths and things like that. So I think we are in, well, maybe in every country that I've seen and talked with teachers, the problem is a bit that we are so jealous of our own subject, that we feel that it's the most important thing that we're doing in the school, and we need every lesson that has been given to us for this subject.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so when
So what do you
everything is
do?
mixed up, then
Right.
then you know, they get terrified, and I just try to give them confidence that everything will be fine in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So
when
do
you do
you, sorry.
when you do your collaborative work, you know, I mean, for us here, ESL and content area teachers have to collaborate primarily because they're not ESL teachers, but, you know, our position also is that all students are the students of everyone. It's not easy. It's not perfect. We don't have it down, just to be upfront about that, but we are trying. But in terms of your own consultancy work, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
How do you structure this collaboration?
How do we structure?
How do you structure it? Yeah. How do you do it?
It depends on the schools, because we it's the teacher autonomy. That's one thing that I have to bring up here, because we in Finland, the teachers can more or less decide what they want to do in their classroom. So what I have to do is, when I go into a school, I have to talk with the teachers and try to find a group of teachers who at least first want to work together, and then we will try to find a suitable way for them to do it. The core curriculum says that they must have at least two 1 week periods of phenomenon-based learning in a school. So then we'll try to figure out how it should be done what is the way that the school should do it, if they're doing it in a one classroom level, for example, so that all for example 7th grade teachers work together, plan it together, and so on, or if they're doing it in some other way. So it all comes, it kind of all rises from the teachers.
Yeah, I think, you know, I mean, you'll see, even in the US, we have different configurations. We have the adjunct model, the a priori, just plenty of, collaborative models, you know, and all of them work in different ways and are flawed in different ways. And so just the last question I have before takes over and we have Q&A. One is, you've been here in the United States, right? And you've looked at our system. You've visited our classrooms. What are the differences that you see between our system and your system?
Let's see. I think your students talk your students talk in the classroom. If a teacher asks them a question, there's always someone who says something. That is a problem that we have in our classrooms, that our students are so quiet. That's one that's one thing that is different. But then if I think about the teacher work that I've seen, it's that your teachers have you have much more rules how to do things. So you know, one example is that in one school that I saw, where English teachers had to decide every Monday morning they had a meeting where they decided which PowerPoint they would show during whatever lessons they had that week.
Mhm.
And they had to show the exact same PowerPoint to all of the 8 or 9 groups that they had. And I was just going, why? Because you have so different students in the classroom, so many different students. Why on earth are you showing the same PowerPoint? And then they were sending messages to each other at what slide are you at after Tuesday? And that was strange because, and the explanation was that if you don't do that, then the parents will come to the school and, tell that why aren't their student getting the same education than the neighbor's student is, or something like that. And so that's what was, I think, was strange for me, that everyone has, in your system, I felt that everyone has to get the same exact handouts and same exact PowerPoints, and that somehow makes the education good. And then in our system, we try to find out what the students need and then give them at least to some of them what they need. Not everyone. We have in a high school we have 38, 40 students in a classroom, so it doesn't work every day, but we don't talk. Our teachers don't talk as much in the classroom as your teachers do. You know, the English teachers that I saw, everyone loved to give lectures.
Well, that's very interesting. I have to say that you saw high schools and middle schools here in our little town, and so that that's kind of confined within that vision, within that scope. And so I think we've come to a 30-minute point here, and there's lots of questions on the side here that I think that's coming in from the audience. That's interesting. Kate, you want to bring up some of the questions?
Yeah. George, George Sanchez, he mentioned that there should be a consideration in terms of interdisciplinary work. And that was when you were talking about the teachers kind of with that mindset of only one area. And Irina Levy mentioned that she would like to know more about parents' involvement in kids' education. So if you could speak to that, that would be great.
I think in the lower grades, parents are quite involved. They have many times a year, they have a teacher-parent meeting, and then they have all school meetings with where more teachers are, and then parents can come to the school and so on. But in high school, there are parents there. I have students that I have never seen their parents, so they are in no contact with the school whatsoever. They I think they trust that their teenagers will do the job, and usually they do, and if they don't, then we'll call the parents and tell them, could you please come to the school, we have something. But as long as everything goes fine, then we might see them at the graduation, and that's all. That's all. So
yeah. So do you think there's a big role that the community and the values of the community play in keeping the kids focused? This is just an opinion, so
I don't know.
Just curious, because that seems to be the case in the US, and I don't know, we're getting people from all over the world here online, so if there are other perspectives you want to share, please do share them.
if the audience if there's anybody who wants to ask a question, you can unmute and ask the question. We'd love to hear from you. And so we have several questions. Ms. Gross, you want to talk about what you're asking?
So I just wanted to find out a little more about how testing happens in Finland. If you're talking about teachers collaborating, are they also making a collaborative test so students have less testing going on, or is everybody still individualized on that?
That also depends on the school and the teacher, because we don't have any national, we have only one national test in Finland, and that's the A levels, the graduation after high school. So we only have one test in 12 years that the students have to take. So it depends on the teachers very much, how much testing there is and how they want to do it, if they want to do it together or if they want to not do it, and so on. So it's there's someone always asks about the testing, and it's so different in Finland. We do test, but it's usually the teacher who plans the test. They're not national, they're not school, the teacher. If I have an English test for my students, it could be totally different than my colleague. We could just test the different things because we would test the things that we have taught them. So if I realize that my students need a grammar lesson or more grammar, then I'll teach them grammar, and then I test them on grammar because I taught them. And then my colleague would teach something else because all her students seem to know their grammar, and so she tests them on something else then.
Thank you.
So Irina had a question about teacher talk. Irina, would you like to mention what you wanted to know with there?
Hi. First of all, thank you very much for this absolutely amazing talk. Really, I'm in Israel, as I've written right next to my name, and I have to tell that I guess like everywhere else, we've heard so much about your educational system, and I remember when I was pre-service teacher, we had numerous lectures about how things should be done, because that's how it works in Finland. So I'm very excited that you're giving this lecture, and I'm so happy to hear about your country and what things that are being done there. I have a few questions. So first of all, one of my questions was about the parents' involvement, and you answered this question. And you said that parents are more involved in during the elementary school years. Mm-hmm. So, and my question is, so what does it mean? What does it involvement actually involves?
I think it only involves the question, only the questions that they have, the talks that they have with the teacher about the assessment of the student, because we don't have the test, so many tests. Then the parents come to school, and then we talk about the progress of their child and what the child has learned and what he or she needs to learn more, and so on. And then there might be one or two some sort of winter skiing days or something like that, when all the family comes to school and so on. But that's, I think the talks with the teachers are the main thing.
Okay. So in other words, let's say if a kid has a problem with reading, so you wouldn't ask the parents to try to teach or help that kid learn how to read. It's not about that kind of involvement. Okay.
No.
All
It's
right.
the
No, just
school's job. It's the school's job to teach
the.
the child to read.
Okay, no, it was just, it's just maybe it was something that it's just very exaggerated, but that's the first example that came to my mind. And I have also another question. You were talking about your hard work and how much you try to address each kid's personal needs. And my question is whether it is done through differential teaching, or you have like extra hours that are given to kids, let's say, who struggle. So that's my question.
Yes, both.
Okay.
So in the classroom we try to help all of the students. So that's one of the reasons that teachers try to talk as not talk so much than to help so that we would have time to help the students. And then we have all schools have special education teachers who will help then the students that need help. And one thing that came to my mind is that we have a funding system in Finland that the schools that have more students with special needs get more money, or if the schools are in an area, well, we don't have very much differences between the economic status of areas, but if the school is in an area where there are it's not as rich the area as some other, then the school will get more money to get help with the students, and they might get more teachers, and they might get more special education teachers and so on. So that's how we try to help the students.
Okay, so that's for those kids who have special needs, but I'm even more interested in in kids who are not defined or identify as special education kids, but just kids who are struggling with, I don't know, with whatever. There are always those kids who are stronger, and there are always those kids who are weaker. That's natural situation. I'm not talking about special needs, but just differences in kids' achievements within the same class.
Yes, I should have explained that in Finland we all of those are special needs. So so we don't well, we have children, of course, with different diagnosis and things like that, but we consider every student with their own special needs. So we have special ed teachers who help all of the students who struggle for whatever reason. So they we don't need any diagnosis for anything. We just help everyone.
Oh, that's fantastic. It was really important clarification, because I had, when I hear special ed, I have just a completely different thing in my mind. That's so interesting.
My mistake, because I should have remembered that, but I'm in the Finnish education zone here, so.
Thank you so much, really, thank you.
Yeah, it's a code, right?
Yes.
Jehosen, are you still around? Would you like to ask your question about learning-oriented assessment?
Hello, this is Jiresh from India. Yeah, my question was regarding learning-oriented assessment. I was typing my next question also. Maybe I'd club it together. India is a nation where it is mostly test biased and based kind of context is prevalent. And to take that towards learning oriented context, no, it's very difficult. Even in the new education policy in 2020, it's more about standardized testing. So I wanted to learn from the person from Finland, no, maybe to understand what inspired the policy makers to do away with the conventional way of teaching and learning process, and in what way, in a collaborative context, learning oriented assessments are employed. I wanted to know about these two aspects. What really inspired the policy makers? What constitutes the policy making committee or council whatsoever? And how is that this practical change was possible in a nation like Finland, whereas in countries like India, we still know we are confined to the ideas of test-oriented learning. Yeah. Thank you.
About the policymakers, I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't know why this has been done in Finland, and why so. But I think that it has something to do with our with the idea of the Finnish. It's in our society. I think it's in our society somehow, more than just in the education sector, that we somehow want to see everyone very equal and not competitive. We're not a very competitive country somehow, so that's why we've been changed. And I think it's because of the focus on skills that somehow some people, I don't know who, but some people have realized that it's more important in the modern world to have different kinds of skills and learn how to continuously learn and learn more and live in the ever-changing, fast changing environment and society than to learn something by heart or whatever standards there are for learning. And for the other part, I think it's just that our teachers, in collaboration, well, for example, in my school, we decide together that we think English teachers, we team up. There are 4 English teachers in my school. We talk about the things that we want to teach the students, about the skills that we want to teach the students, and then we plan the testing that we will have around that. But in high school, because we have the final tests, we also test them on grammar and vocabulary and things like that, since it's a foreign language that I teach, English as a foreign language. So we do have normal tests as well, but we assess their skills more and try to focus on formative assessment more than summative assessment. I don't know if this clarifies it at all, but
yeah, thank you, ma'am. Yeah, that was enlightening. I understand the cultural difference from your answer, the society's understanding of independence, uniqueness of individuals that has made people to come up with such a policy. Whereas when certain societies still believing in certain discriminating ideology, they continue to be authoritative in terms of education also. And even in the second part, I understand not only our teaching learning process, but also testing should also become bespoke. tailor-made for the needs of students. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you, Jehosen. I don't know what time it is in India, but pretty early in the morning. So,
midnight, 12:15 a.m.
Okay. So one of the things, Sana, is the new curriculum, I think, focuses on real world problems. You know, the focus is on teachers working in the classroom with real world issues, real world projects. And I think that's one of the focus of the NCC, which came out in 2014, if I'm not mistaken, which I thought was also interesting. And that may reflect some of the assessments that are taking place and you know, that you guys put together as teachers, in addition to standardized testing. I'm not sure I would agree that those are normal testing, but I would call them standardized testing. So anyway, there are more interesting questions. And I think Irina had another one, which is, what do you mean by skills? What do you teach? What skills do you teach?
Well, we teach collaboration. So our students work together a lot. So we teach communication skills, we teach critical thinking, we teach creativity. And so when we teach all of the subjects, we try to incorporate these different kinds of skills into the subjects so that the students learn these as well. We teach entrepreneurship. It's a skill as well. Entrepreneurship. We try to incorporate that into everything that we have in the school and so on. So that's what I mean. And then of course in language there are, you know, communication skills and, you know, listening and all kinds of different skills in different subjects, but there are also these universal skills that we have.
One of the questions from Karina, who's left, it looks like, but I have that question too, is about how do teachers engage in collaborative planning? Do they have planning time? And I'm thinking of this from an angle of getting beyond the scope of English to collaborating in an interdisciplinary way, which Jaresh mentioned earlier. And I was also kind of trying to connect that to content and language integration, as in CLIL. So if you could speak to the collaborative planning, and particularly collaborative planning in an interdisciplinary way, that would be great.
We have, it depends on the school a bit, but we have 2 to 3 hours of collaboration time each week. And that we can, that in the school can decide how to use that. So how much of that you can use with your own subject area teachers, and how much of that you can use with other teachers, planning maybe some projects that you want to do with other subject area teachers, or if you want to use some of that with the parents, or if you need to use some of that with the parents, and so on. And so again, it's more or less the school and the teachers who decide what they want to do, if they want to do. It's very easy for, I've done a lot of project with my colleagues as combining English into different things, because it's an easy subject to put into everything. But there have been, you know, projects with, like, for example, biology and chemistry and things like that. I think we had history and psychology teacher do a smaller project together for a few weeks. They planned it together, and then there's their students. But the problem that we have is that after every 7 weeks, our students change, so that we don't teach the same students all 3 years, for example. I have my students for 7 weeks, and then the group changes and I have other students again. So so that's different, because our students can choose the teachers that they want to work with. So I never know who I get.
So if you only have them for 7 weeks, how much do you get to know them in that time? I mean, I would think that it would be really hard to get to know them unless you have them repetitively, right?
Some of them I don't get to know at all, because they don't come back. And then some students that do like my style, they choose my lessons, or they like my schedule. They know, they like when they like the hours when the lessons are. I don't know which one, but anyway, they come back. So those students, so I have students that for 3 years choose all of my courses, so they keep coming back to my courses. And then there are students who might, after one course, realize that no, thank you, I don't want to go back to her. So and it's good, because we have 4 English teachers in my school, and we are all quite different. So it's very good for the students, because they can choose then some.
Jorge, can I interrupt and say, because we have a few minutes, Jorge, Sanchez Jorge had a question on collaboration and the, Jorge, is it Sanchez, sorry, do you want to jump in?
Hello, how are you? Can you listen to me?
Good, yes.
Yes, okay. No, I think that the presentation is very interesting and very illuminating as well. I consider that collaborative teaching or interdisciplinary work is very important in terms of advancing the discipline. And I think that my question has been answered by Sana. I don't have any more questions in relation to this. I have attended another TESOL webinar that says that it was about critical education. And I also asked a question to the presenter that I consider that critical education should be established from the early stages of education and not to wait university in order to implement this kind of education. I think that critical education has also been implemented from very early stages of education, that is to say primary or elementary school, secondary or high school, and then university. Because in Argentina, I'm from Argentina, and we teach, for example, in the case of reading, we teach students to think, to make inferences or inferential questions and answer this kind of questions. And the students always tell me, we have never been encountered to this type of questions. So I think that is very important, this issue as well.
And I think he's concurring with the skills that Asana that's being introduced. I know Irina has another question. She's raised a hand. We have about 3 minutes. Thank you, Sanchez, for that question and comment. And Irina, we have a very short minute. So if you want to ask.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I have a very short question. First of all, I'm so excited about this opportunity that kids have, that they can choose their teacher. So my question is, what if no one chooses me? What happens then as a teacher? No, it's a real question, because I can't understand why people try to work so hard. It's a whole different world. So what happens if no one wants to come to my classes?
I have no idea, because I don't know anyone that it would have. I don't know it has happened ever, because there are a lot of students who don't care who the teacher who the teacher is. They just want to take the courses and they just want to study. It doesn't matter who the teacher is. So they're not the first ones when the timetable comes up, they're not the first ones to choose the teachers. And so they get what's left.
Okay, and just a really, really very last question. So you said that you actually work with your students within 7 weeks only. And my question is it enough time to really understand the needs of every single kid? Sometimes it takes it takes me months to understand how I can help that kid. And you tell me that you just teach them for 7 weeks.
What we try to teach our kids from early on, from the first grade, is to assess themselves. Excellent. To do self-assessment so that they know, so that when I start with a new group, since I teach in high school, they are quite good at telling me. They know what their English skills are, what their problems are, and so on. So they can tell me who, so, and I trust that they know. I trust that they know.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, really.
Thank you for your questions.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing, actually. And thank you, everyone, for raising those very critical questions, because, it gives us a bigger insight than the PISA assessment, because, all we hear about in Finland is that the PISA assessment, Finland's rating now has changed in terms of where its rankings are in the PISA assessment. But, with your questions and Sanna's explanation, we get a bigger picture of what's happening in Finland. And Sanna, before we go, because it's right at 2 p.m. Here, and it's later at night in Finland. Sanna, is there a question we didn't ask that you want us to leave us with? Because this is our final 2020-2021 TEIS webinar before we get into the new year. And so, Sanna, anything that you want to leave us with that we did not ask?
No, just stay safe, everyone, and let's hope that this COVID-19 is over very fast everywhere.
Thank you. We hope so. And thank you to Sanna, to Kate, and to all our members for your interest and for your attendance in all of our webinars this past academic year. We love you all. Stay safe and stay connected. Thank you.
And thank you, Farida, for organizing everything.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks.